Hello everybody and welcome to the second node session here at Under the Sky of BDOME. First of all, many thanks to BDOME for supporting us with their wonderful dome. Exactly. And of course, lots of thanks to Derivative for supporting us and to PlusPlusOne GmbH who's providing us with streaming and audio and video services and everything technical that is related to the internet. So thank you to all of those. The Node session is a place where creative technologists, designers, artists, musicians, and everybody who's interested in the future of audiovisual expression and experience design can come together, learn about new things, present, exchange, and get to know each other. Let's not forget, in the first place, even though we have the talks, this is a meetup, so please, everybody feel really comfortable to talk to everybody else. If you don't know anybody, you're very invited to just walk up to them and asking, who are you and what are you doing here? This is how great conversations and great relationships start. We have 3 exciting speakers today, but first allow me to do a tiny bit of advertising for the things that come up at the Node Institute. So first of all, now our 2 master classes, New Media Dramaturgy and Creative Robotics, came to an end. The participants are coming this week to Berlin. They're having an open lab at Canapé, hosted by Canapé Collective at the Synotheka Gallery in the Hobrechtstraße, Neukölln, part of 48 Hours of Neukölln. And you're all cordially invited to join us for the performances of the New Media Dramaturgy participants on Friday, 7 p.m. Further, we are happy that Elon Hammer is visiting from the United States, from sunny California to sunny Berlin. And we wanted to use the opportunity. Hey, Elon. Hey. So maybe you know Elon as the guy who does the Visual Cast, which is a great podcast series where he in-depth interviews people from the visual community. And he's also a VJ and a producer, and he's going to talk about the connection of Unreal and TouchDesigner. And it's actually an in-person workshop, very rare thing. We thought, as Elon is visiting, we try this. This is this Sunday at the Node Institute. And maybe, Elon, you want to say 2-3 words about what people could expect from this workshop.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Stefan, and the Node Institute for hosting this event and the workshop. So the workshop is kind of a culmination of all my many years of doing visuals at festivals, and throughout that kind of experience, understanding how to connect the systems and the content creation tools for real-time 3D visuals. So it's basically using Unreal as a content creation tool in real time, and using TouchDesigner as more of like a brain or hub or mediator of data, and connecting those two, and where they kind of meet, which one's good for this, which one's good for that. And the workshop's going to be, it should be really interesting. I have a lot of example projects to give out in the workshop. A lot of, very, very late night problem solving information that I can give you in a few sentences instead of having you have to go through those problems. And it's very unique because it's really combining those 2 softwares in a very synchronous way, and not just kind of like putting things together and stringing them together. So yeah, I hope to see some people there. And again, really thank you so much for having me. And please come talk to me. I love talking, if you can't tell. And yeah, questions or anything, just talk to me. And check out the visual cast, for sure, on YouTube. Stefan has a great episode there, too. And Dan, as well. Okay.
Thank you, Elon. And maybe good to know for your, TouchDesigner Unreal VVV professionals from all over the world. If you travel, if you come to Berlin, get in touch. Maybe we can arrange a similar thing. The next thing I would like to point out is the 2 upcoming master classes. It's not too late to join in. They're going to start on the 2nd of July. One of them is dealing with real-time visuals, VJing for an immersive club situation in cooperation with Studio 1111. And the other one, which is on the next slide, is in cooperation with Speedome. And the challenge here is going to be to develop an audiovisual piece for the Dome. Both of those are not necessarily super technical things, but they're more like an art school approach. So you have a case study, and the instructors will guide you through the process to create a project from beginning to end and then deliver it in the actual structure. So this is going to start next week, and the other thing, you will see the QR code just brings you to a general event thing because it's not set up yet, but it's decided. We're going to organize, in cooperation with BDOME, an open dome meetup on the 8th of August, where everybody is invited to come, bring content, try out stuff. How can we get real-time content on the dome? How does it look like? How does it feel? Etc. pp. And this is completely technology open. It could be a pre-rendered dome master. We will try to have an NDI pipeline. We will try to run TouchDesigner patches. We will see how we can get from V4 in real time into the system. No guarantees, completely experimental. It's free. I think we're going to start like 4 in the afternoon, 5, and then go maybe till 10. Again, thanks to BDOME for opening up that opportunity. Yeah, you're going to hear more about that. And then I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Which gives me the great opportunity to introduce our first speaker, which is BELCIM YAVUZ. She's an interdisciplinary artist, researcher, dancer. The list is long. She's going to introduce herself. And thank you for coming, BELCIM. I have to add, BELCIM is also one of the instructors of the new media dramaturgy course, together with Helene Ullers. You can see the performances on Friday at 7. And you will hear more about BELCIM's work now in this highly anticipated talk. Thank you for coming.
So thank you, Stefan, for introduction and kind words. My name is BELCIM YAVUZ. I'm an interdisciplinary artist and designer. That would be the short version. The long would be architect, multimedia designer, creative technologist, performer, dancer, depending on what the moment calls for. These are some snippets from the projects I've been doing lately. I have a background in both dance and architecture, having studied architecture at Istanbul Technical University. During my studies, I was drawn not just to designing spaces, but to imagining how bodies might move through them, how a space could become a scene, and the choreographies it might contain could become part of its narrative. Here are some visuals from my graduation project back in 2018. And this curiosity about bodies, space, and motion eventually led me to pursue masters in media architecture at Bauhaus University. There I found tools that allowed me to work with time, interactivity, to build not only physical spaces, but also digital and temporal ones, environments where the bodies could move, react, interact, and be affected. So my practice then became a kind of intersection between body, medium, a space of inquiry into what moves us and how our movement connects us, and then how this echoes in public space later. I'm going to introduce one of my latest projects created as part of my master's thesis. It's the final performance after a series of experiments, and it's called Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, Who is the Fairest of Them All? Performance starts when a visitor notices a portrait on the wall. In the portrait, we see a calm, harmless performer, me in this case, slowly moving. However, as the visitor approaches, the performer begins to get disturbed, maybe screaming, crying, changing her attitude, making funny mimics, doing whatever it takes to attract the attention of the viewers, even reflecting their own image back at them. So I was hidden in the next room watching the audience through a camera placed near a portrait, so I could react according to audience's actions. Such interaction would be the performance itself. And sometimes there would be moments that they are displaced on the portrait, so-called mirror moments. At the end, I was entering the room with my physical body as well, followed by a small manifesto performance. There were moments when I could spontaneously type and encourage people to move with me, entertain them a bit, like here, nice hands, I'm typing, I guess. Or invite them to do something silly with me. Sometimes I would feel the lack of energy, the drop of energy on one side of the room, and then I would zoom to one corner and kind of try to pull that people's attention back to the game. I would type, like, come to the camera, stuff like that. So I would try to keep people playing with me. Or there would be moments like I place visitors' face between my fingers, pinch it, zoom in, out, blow kisses at them. Silly stuff like this. The performance was built using TouchDesigner and MediaPipe. I use body tracking features to map specific responses to my mimics and gestures. So for example, when I smiled, the text, "just kidding," would automatically appear. So it was most of the time there during the performance, appearing on my mouth. Or when I made a hand gesture, for example, a question would pop up. Or when I screamed, it triggered a distortion effect with the text, "don't leave me." And throughout the piece, I also used rhetorical questions that I could bring intentionally with the buttons, like this, "what is your Steuernummer?" That would later reference to the manifesto part of it. So this is what the setup and interface looked like. I designed custom buttons to control the text, camera zoom, and different effects, like playing with the opacity between my image and the visitor's image, overlapping them so we can synchronize the movements. And after the first time I performed it, I added some new possibilities for the next performance, new interactions, text, little things that I thought it would extend the interaction's lifespan. So in a way, it was also like designing a game using tricks that we recognize from popular apps today, facial filters, flashy colors, trying to create a small wow effect, even if it's just for a moment, to keep the attention alive. And a little bit about the research part. At the beginning of my thesis, I looked into the history of motion tracking and discovered chronocyclographs, which was used in the early 20th century to measure factory workers' productivity. So the productivity engineers would measure the efficiency in the workplaces, and they would make some changes in the workflow so that the work becomes, let's say, half of the time of the original. And that led me to develop some experiments around speed, efficiency, and invisible labor. I worked with MediaPipe and followed some great tutorials by Torin Blankensmith and William Chepe. I would like to thank them. I'd also like to thank Helen and Diana for their inspiring workshop at the Node Institute last year. I was part of it, and that really accelerated my experimentation with the medium. And of course, I would also thank Dr. Alexander Koenig from Bauhaus, who gave me technical advice, especially on networking between laptop, router, phone, NDI, OSC. So the project in general set up a digital mirror and presents a participatory experiment on viewers' attention span and attraction. What attracts our attention? Is it beauty, relatability, or similarity? Maybe our narcissistic traits that seek reflections everywhere. Positioning body tracking technology, both as a performance partner and a surveillance tool, I also wanted to reflect on our self-perception through the lens of AI's algorithms, binary detection. And that part of the research was, again, part of the manifesto part. One of the intentions behind this project was to see how long I could sustain a stranger's attention. How convincing could I be in getting them to do silly stuff with me? And how much nonsense we could share together for how long. The initial idea was to be on a gallery wall, or even better, a street-facing shop window, unannounced, possibly surrounded by other artworks, and from there I would try to build an interaction with a passerby. That was the initial idea. But unfortunately, the galleries I've shown so far were relatively small and didn't have much foot traffic, so the performances had to be announced in advance. And I can say that took away a bit from the spirit of pop-up thing. And I can also add, having friends in a performance is both a blessing and a curse, because they're already comfortable with me. They were very quickly engaging, which sometimes I felt like it made harder for strangers to step in for the interaction. So for the next iteration, I plan to keep it unannounced, really, like a pop-up intervention in a public space. That will be ideal version, I think. Later in the performance, I made a kind of physical comeback. I wanted to explore how virtual interaction could translate later into physical space. So this video is from the performance in Berlin. There I could connect with the street and passerbys, the car driver, during this manifesto part. This part took the form of a manifesto, followed by a collective choreography. And manifesto referred back to these rhetorical questions I asked earlier, touching on topics like identity is becoming numerical, like existential questions. At one point, I invited people in these photos you see, I think, invited people to have like their hands up and become ones and zeros in the room, and make this kind of bridge where they hold hands. And it ended in a birth scene where we formed a kind of a vaginal wall, and I tried to push through to be born again. Like I was also guiding people with the breathe in and out, stuff like that. So this kind of absurd ending we had. And this was a total solo project. Because it was my thesis, I wanted to be self-sufficient and do everything by myself. But in general, I really enjoy collaborating with people, and in this project, we collaborated later. So after this project, we switched to slow down now. We had the chance to bring this kind of experimentation with body tracking onto the stage during our 1-month residency at Theater House Jena. Together with Maya Gomez and Stefan Klötze, we used hand tracking to control the sound, and one dancer would approach the camera while continue dancing, guided by hand movements, and the other dancer would then respond to the altered sound and the projections. So the hand distance here was altering the sound a bit, but unfortunately the 4 weeks passed very quickly and we couldn't experiment with the body tracking as much as we wanted. The whole piece is like 45 minutes long, and we built everything from scratch: the choreography, dramaturgy, the dance, and the tracking segment ended up being a small part of it, maybe around 5 minutes. And if we get the chance in the future, we would really love to explore it further in the next iterations of the piece. And another project I want to share is called Sensor, also empowered by TouchDesigner. Together with my colleague, Valeria Shakova, we created this piece. It's inspired by the aesthetics of censorship on the female body. and we explored how the movement's language emerges when certain parts of the body are blocked, made invisible, or selectively highlighted. So about the project a bit, censorship bars were often used in newspapers in Turkey to cover women's faces, eyes, especially when they were shown doing something outside of societal norms, which would be called inappropriate. I wanted to play with that visual language to bring that bar idea to the body, and also the movement language is inspired by how the silencing is stored in the body as a trauma. So we had some tappings, we had this kind of tapping interaction also for the audience.
And of course, women must earn less than men because they are weaker, they are smaller, they are less intelligent.
At the end of the performance, the censorship lines transform into words, and then we hear politicians' brilliant ideas about women.
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents?
Legen aber keine Eier, meine Damen und Herren. Wer keine Eier hat, sollte nicht studieren.
And the fight for abortion, yes or no, as a principle?
And in the final scene, I would walk toward the fabric with electroconductive patches on it. And by tapping, I would distort the sound. So in a way, I would silence the politicians, censoring the censorship. This is how setup looks like. My colleague Valeria would be in the control of the patches, like sit next to the patches in the fabric that is like goes to the audience. And we also wanted to create a scene where the audience could take part. Using electroconductive textile, we made it so that when someone touches the patches, they change the height of the line. And you need two hands to close the circuit, or two people holding hands. That way anyone could come in and shift the lines, and dancer would have to react to those changes on the scene, which is adding this conceptual layer pointing to how censorship takes also many forms. We often censor each other or even censor ourselves, especially while living under authoritarian regimes. This auto-censor becomes a norm. And that was, for us, also highlighting that a bit. After trying this setup once, as expected, the audience wasn't very encouraged to come up and interact by themselves during the performance. So we decided to include Valeria as a performer as well. She was responsible not only for the managing technical, but this time for performing as well during the live show. And in a somewhat authoritarian manner, she would direct people to come forward and influence the censorship that is happening on the stage. And the last part is that me teaching. Currently, I'm involved in some teaching activities in Bauhaus, the Nord Institute, Tanztheater Erfurt, and Zimt in Leipzig as well. And last winter semester, I began teaching at Bauhaus, TouchDesigner course under the module by Dr. Alexander König. And this semester, I continue that, and I also co-teach another seminar with my colleague Anıl Aydınoğlu. In the TouchDesigner course, I guide students through hands-on experiments, highlighting its potential not just as a visual tool, but also as a conceptual framework to explore relationship between space, image, and possibly body. And at the Nord Institute, I assist Helen in the masterclass New Media Dramaturgy. Together, we support participants in crafting narratives within immersive environments. And with Anil, the seminar we co-organize is called Rebels Rise, Ridicule Reigns, Power Cries as Carnival Flames. In this course, we explore how humor, grotesque imagery, and absurdity can be powerful tools to resist hierarchical structures, drawing from Mikhail Bakhtin's concept of carnivalesque. And in Rebels Rise, we work with methodologies from theater, contemporary dance, improvisation, and site-specific performance. We experiment with how humor and embodiment can activate public space, provoke reactions, and subvert normative codes of behavior. And we ponder also how we can integrate the medium TouchDesigner into such contexts. And we realize it seems like we need another semester for that. But we have already some ideas going in this direction of funny and simple interactions. Let's see. So yeah, these were the current projects I've been working on. A bit of many things, like this collage a bit. I'm very excited about creating participatory spaces including performance, critical technology, and interaction in general. And I'm currently open for collaborations, jobs, commissions, teaching/researching roles. And finally, a big thank you to TouchDesigner and the Node Institute for creating this space. And I'm grateful to be here and excited for what's coming next. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insight, BELCIM. It's time for questions. I have a tiny one. Can you give like just a little peek, a sneak peek on what can people expect on Friday's presentations? Is it like experimental or?
Yeah, it will be like an open lab and it's open to public. We will showcase the final performances of our masterclass. We have already very exciting projects, and I think it's going to be a lot interaction and activity, body movements involved. It's going to be fun.
Okay, fun is important. Do we have questions from the audience? Yes, David.
First of all, thank you very much for this talk. I'm excited and also reminded on past experiences from myself as a patcher on a theater stage, basically. And my question is, how do you perceive, as somebody involved with programming technology, running a computer software in a rehearsal process? So how do you feel is this balanced in the actual process, like the body work and in parallel with the programming and developing of TouchDesigner software? And then especially maybe where do you see limitations of the technology side of it, or where are maybe the problems about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's something that I've been thinking about already, like always feeling these two worlds clashing, because one requires sitting in front of computer a lot, finalizing the things visual, and the other one is quite body-oriented, requiring to be present. And the rehearsal process, for some works, it's like, for example, the first work, the solo work, I think it was just like so many iterations, me trying in front of computer. But the only, how to say, more like bodily part was, I think, really performing. That was the joy, I think. Before that, I was always like very into the computer work. So that wasn't balanced at all, maybe. But yeah, the finalizing part is already a good feedback, the performance part itself, good feedback for also later, later computer work that is upcoming. And the challenges, limitations, yeah, I think it's like, first, as I said, there is the inner challenge, psychological challenge, which is like clashing, and I don't have like a solution for that. I am also searching for this, I think. But yeah, the more this we are, how to say, finding chance to meet with the audience, these works, I think there it is a really practice and experiment. Yeah, what is really good about this work that at the end it's worth a lot of, how to say, anti-anatomical work, I feel like.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, David, for the question. Do we have other questions from the audience? Back here.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
I love your connection of the body and movement into the visual. It's always really inspiring to see these kind of connections between different types of, frequencies or movements or different art forms. I was kind of interested in like, what's your process to this? Do you have like a general idea of what you're trying to say in your art, and then you look at it from a technology standpoint, and then like where do you start, where do you begin, where do you end, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part also, I think, is changing. I think this process is always working as a feedback thing. So sometimes, for example, for this work called Sensor, the censorship one, I had an analog version of this idea some years ago. That version would include a tape, me getting a tape, and then, later on build, dance, and stuff like that. But after I met with TouchDesigner, I thought, okay, why not to make this tape a light? Then I paired up with Valeria, which was also very nice because she had more knowledge on TouchDesigner, and she was like, that's doable, we can do it. And then we started this process of TouchDesigner after having already a very, how to say, structured concept. But of course, then the medium is shaping again the piece, and we saw, okay, with the light, then other body parts are also a bit highlighted. Then what's happening, then movement is also affected by that. But there will be also some projects that I first start playing with the medium, and then I have the idea of a concept. That was the process in my master thesis, for example. Like, I had a concept, but some concepts, like experiments, that then went to, how to say, a bit side. And the last concept was like, also while playing with the medium, I found it, and that was like, okay, this is I like. I will keep going on with this one. So it's always, a bit feedbacking each other. Sometimes I discover something in the program, in the medium, and then I'm going back to the concept and changing the concept. That is feedbacking the concept as well, adapting the concept also.
Thank you so much. Really inspiring.
Well, I think it's time for our beloved break. Just one thought, I sometimes also think when I watch someone doing TouchDesigner, it can also feel like watching a performance, or sometimes people look over your shoulder and you're flying through the notes, you're zooming in and out. Maybe that's also some kind of physical performance worth showing at some point on a stage.
Could be.
Well, thank you so much, BELCIM, for coming.
Thank you for inviting.
And we're going to have a break. We're going to be back at 9 with TOBIAS GÖTZ, who transcends, I think, all software products. He's been creating visual stuff forever. He's been a part of Pfadfinderei, which the older of you might remember as the VJ crew in Berlin, maybe Germany. And I'm very excited to hear what other projects he brings to this place. So see you in a bit at 9. Thank you. Start. So, Lukas. Zum Anfang ready. Ja. Ich sage ganz kurz was. Ich sage jetzt nur Wieland Bescheid, dass er schon dein Bild drauf macht.
Okay. Nimmst du mich hoch oder soll ich mich jetzt schon hinstellen?
Wenn ich jetzt gleich geflitzt komme, kommst du mir mit und dann gebe ich dir das Mikrofon. Mach wir einmal zusammen vorne. Okay, dann I show up in front. Hello, everybody. We're back from a social break. Not everybody is back. It's their fault. They're gonna miss out. We're now ready, almost ready for the second speaker. First of all, I would like to give the microphone for a moment to Lukas Ruoff. You remember his talk in the last note session. This has already sparked results that Lukas is going to shortly introduce to you.
Okay, hello. So I have some exciting news for all of you. So the first news is going to be an event, and the second news is going to be an open call. So could I get the slide up here? Yes, there it is. Thank you. So the event I want to talk to you about is called Sound Gazing. And what we wanted to do here is to build an event in Berlin. Thank you. Where audiovisual live music happens. So there are going to be experimental ambient musicians coming to play, and all of this will be happening at B-Dome right here. Thank you to B-Dome for hosting us. Thank you very much, Yasmin. And yeah, the first event is going to take place just 10 days from now, so the second Sunday. Please follow us on Instagram. You have the chance to be like the 5th follower or something. We went online today. Yeah, I hope to see many of you there. And also, I said there is an open call. So we are still looking for performers. So both musicians and live VJs. So people, please send me a DM on Instagram if you want to play live on the Dome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I'm not wrong if I say you can also just talk to Lukas directly. You don't have to use Instagram, right? Now, let's come to the next speaker. It's a special honor to welcome TOBIAS GÖTZ, also known as Tobi at Pfadfinderei. And we just recently met at a birthday of a good friend and got to talk. And he was telling so many interesting things that I thought, like, this has to be one of the speakers for the note session when we move out of the TouchDesigner niche into the wider world of visual experiences. And now he's here, and I'm super happy. And your stage.
Thank you.
Okay, oh wow, this works. Maybe I first start a little bit on my background, where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a collective which is from 1998, and we was like designers and motion graphers and font designers, and we came all together and wanted to do something new, especially in the time of digital age. And this leads then very quickly that we did live performances for music shows, and I don't want to talk too much about this part. I give you probably 2 or 3. Thank you. That's amazing. Samples from our live shows we did. Maybe you know the musicians, and yeah, I'll let the visuals talk. Well, thank you also to the amazing band. So that was a special screen setup with like we call it the butterfly. So you have a cross of 4 transparent screens, and what happens then if you play with 4 projectors on this thing, that you have a kind of 3-dimensional, but it also, because you have this cross, you have 2 dimensionals which are crossing, and you can. That's very trippy when you see this in real, because sometimes you get the layer, and sometimes you get totally lost in it. And when you combine it with light, it's very fun to play. And then show you another one. So there was mode selector, and the show was made also with a great light artist, Christoph, and he's very good and completely make the light and the video together. A little bit to understand how we play, we do it a little bit more like a sample player. So even when you do generative stuff, we kind of record the stuff in multiple variations. And when you play it live, you actually have different layers you can trigger. So it's a little bit like a sampler. You play it like a sampler and you spice it up a little bit with some glitch effects or something, but it's most of the time, it's a great library you have, and you can kick in always what you want in the right moment, which makes it much easier than controlling generative stuff live. So for us, it was at this time also, because we didn't have so much power on the laptop, was not possible to do everything we wanted to do live generative. So that was the reason for it. Today it's different. The next thing is just to get an idea is just the installation. So we built something which is playing a visual, and it's kind of an art piece. So at the end, you saw maybe the structure. So there's no pixels. It's kind of glass pipes, and they have these different stripe patterns. And if you play a video with a mapping software over it, it's very trippy. You constantly your brain try to make something out of it. And so we was playing this like very sculpture's face from a sculpture, the head. And actually, on the journey, while this head is actually going to the side, you see a lot of trippy other things. There's actually one color missing here in my video feed. I think it's red or something like that. It's very greenish, everything. But yeah, so it's when you have kind of this display, it's very inspiring if you play things over it, what happens with your mind, because you constantly try to make something up. And it's a little bit about this installation. And now I show you another project. I was making the visual concept for it. Actually, the sculpture was from Dominik Kiesling, one of our collective, and he's doing amazing mathematic sculptures right now as a solo artist. And he works also with nebula and fog installations. quite cool to check out, Dominik Kiesling. And the next project is from the Institute of Sound and Music, where we was applying a visual concept. So they have had a sound dome with 60 speakers. So you kind of surround by speakers, and you can move sound like psychoacoustically out and in and around you. And then we make a visual concept for it. And that was a sketch. I don't touch it. So how did I break it down? So what you just saw was this kind of a wireframe which is holding all the speakers because they have to be in a special distance. And then I added these 6 screens. I doesn't want to have a dome because they was thinking about it's good to have a dome. But aesthetically, it's always a problem when you have a round surface. And the second thing is, the horizon is kind of the absolute sweet spot of our approach in the world. So we mostly watch the horizon, mostly not the floor, mostly not the sky. It's always the horizon. And in a dome, you can see it here perfectly. The horizon is cut in half, and you just have the rest of the roof. So that's why, for me, it was clear I need something really which is rich in the horizon. So why I didn't close the whole horizon to make it round. So next thing with round surfaces is like they're getting organic distorted. That's why you always end up a little bit with this Goa visuals, how I call it. I love it, but it's always this organic thing because when you have like aesthetically designed plates, they're getting distorted. And the problem for me was I wanted to have a flat surface which always looks good even when you see it from the side. So flat screens. Then you can make an octagon or you can make, so I played around and then I didn't want to close the place like here right now. I wanted that you see the surrounding so that you have a room in a room. So you see the outside and you have windows in another world. So that was a little bit the idea. So this is now how it was looking in real. So the Hexadome, thank you. The credit goes to ISM, which hosted this amazing project. So the idea from ISM is actually to bring artists together. So the Hexadome is not made only for one person. It's a platform, and it's always a musician and a visual artist playing together, and they're creating a piece. and they performed this piece one time live for the opening of the Hexadome, and then the rest of the next 2 weeks we play all the how you call it, pieces from all the artists before. So it's like an exhibition in exhibition mode, and you have a live performance of 1 or 2 artists. And the first artist for us was Brian Eno, and he have had a programmer, and he was programming live generated visuals with the ray tracing software from the 80s. And the funny thing was, I remember that at this time the iMac Pro was a brand new computer, and it was kind of with a good graphic card and everything. And so we was running the Hexadome completely with this iMac Pros, and the software switched into millions of colors. So this was not 8-bit, it was actually 10-bit. And the laser projectors also switched, because it was connected with fiber, also to 16 million colors. So this 80s software was running in true color, and was generating all these amazing tones what the people never saw on the screen before. All this what we see right now is 8-bit. But if you see true color for the first time, you see a brown, you see this mint green and all this stuff, and it was looking so amazing that alone this was already so impressive for the Brian Eno show. Like myself, I was sitting there for hours and watched these colors and thought like, shit, why is this so amazing? And we all didn't know it. It was happening automatically, because the Xcode software on Apple was just deciding to run everything in millions of colors. So this was a Brian Eno show, and then we have Ben Frost, and we have had a lot of great artists already in the first week here in Martin Gropiusbau, and Hexadome went then to the United States, to San Francisco, New York, and there we collected also a lot of great pieces. Also, one of the greatest, I have to say, was Susan Charney. She's already 80 years old, and she's rocking a modular system. And she was also playing live in the Hexadome.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Chani. I've been working in spatially controlled sound since the late 60s. I'm very excited to be part of this project because the electronic music is made to move. If technology can bring us more effective ways of being human with the machines, then I'm happy.
Yeah, she has a Buchla modular system, and the funny thing is, in the 70s, everything was quadraphonic. So I always was growing up and thought stereo is already modern, but they have had already 4 outputs in the 70s, and then we downgraded to stereo. That's very funny. And she's still, since the 70s, was making quadraphonic performances. So always 4 speakers, and in the Hexadome, because it has a complete free space where you can move the sound, she could the first time really be off the 4 speakers. She could move her 4 outputs in the Hexadome. Yeah, you should check out ISM. If they play in Berlin again, you should really check out the sound system. It's amazing. I'm not a fan of surround systems, but this one is great. Okay, now we come to a completely different concept, different project. It is about how you can cover art exhibitions. And I was sitting in a cafe and talked with my friend about the things what I want to do in my life. And that was easy. It was a very quick list. Write down whatever you want. And then there was the question, when you want to do this? And then it got very serious. Like, oh, I can't do all the things. And one thing on this list was funny-wise, that I thought, why you cannot cover all these amazing art exhibitions in the world just with a 360 movie. So the camera is actually driving through the exhibition like a visitor and records everything in super high resolution. So later, if you can't visit this exhibition or you want to see it again, you can just watch it in 360. And the most important thing for me was, of course, the quality. And so my friend, which I told this, actually was saying, why are you not writing this down and ask for funding? And I said, well, it will never happen, right? So he forced me to do that, and that was an art visit project. It actually happened. We got funding for this, and we started this project. And we built a camera which is recording in 16K and 14-bit color resolution, and it does it in a way that nothing is wrong, because most professional, even 360 cameras, they don't have the lenses on the right position because physically it's not possible. So our camera is different. It's slower, but it's more high resolution, and it can drive by itself through the exhibition. So how does it work? We found an amazing engineer, Benjamin Maus. He's an absolute genius. He can actually build PCBs, program everything in super native, low-tech languages from assembler over Sharp-C to whatever you need. And at the same time, he built a web front end. So what you see right now is actually the camera from the top, because the camera creates with the LiDAR system a complete map of the space. And then what you see, there's a vector line which make a curve. That is the line it will record. So we built this camera, and that was exactly on the first day of the pandemic when the camera was actually working. And we started to record a lot of art exhibitions in 360 film. And you can watch this then, of course, of all devices. You can watch it on a computer, you can put it on YouTube 360, you can put it on Vimeo 360, you can watch it on a laptop, you can even look around with your phone or with your tablet in the art exhibitions. And the resolution is so high that you can even make photographs inside of it. So if you stop and you make a frame, you can develop this frame in 30 megapixel. So we can photograph inside of the movie, because there is no device in the moment which can play 16K. Like 16K is 20 times HD or something like that. It's like 4 times 8K. It's a massive resolution, and even with this color depth, you can't play it today. This is something maybe I have to explain you more, or you have questions later. One good thing, if you cover a space with this camera we developed, is you can also create point clouds out of it, or you can make with machine learning a complete 3-dimensional space without rendering, but without making caustics, but it looks super real. You maybe heard about it. It's called NERF, Neuron Radiance Field Networks. And this, if you check it out on GitHub, it's in the moment developing. So you feed this stuff with, for example, our recording, and then you can fly through this space completely independent. I would say to the end of this topic, we just play, because we are in a dome, a little bit of the recording of the camera. I don't know if they heard it.
Tobi, achso. War das jetzt das Ende oder? Nee, wir gucken jetzt. Können wir drüber reden? Ja, dürfen wir drüber reden? Ich bin mal kurz sprachlos.
So this is actually the ZKM in Karlsruhe. It's a museum for different media. They have also one section only for games. They create games there, show old games and brand new games, and develop games. Or they have any kind of art pieces too. It's a giant place, very nerdy and fun to visit, honestly. That was just a space where they refurbish all art pieces, electronic art pieces, even old art pieces from artists which are dead already. And then they have a gigantic library about any kind of physics and knowledge that has to do with technology and art. And you can just check in there. And of course they have also some live pieces. You can see it probably over there. There was this, oh no, we missed it. Okay, you can't have everything. It's robots which I was playing with flags and making actually, here you see them a little bit. And they was playing to a ballet music. It was quite impressive. Some 70s virtual reality.
So is this the speed the camera is moving, or is this kind of something that's rendered out of the recording again?
It is a very good question. Most exhibitions doesn't have moving objects. Here, this is a different decision. We wanted to have people inside because we have also this moving objects. Normally, we can decide the speed of the camera completely free after the recording, because we generate as much frames we want with machine learning in between. Machine learning is very good for frame interpolation. It's very impressive, so you can have as much frames you want to. So you can change the speed. I mean, in general, the whole clip here is also slow motion. That was on purpose. And if you normally see an art exhibition, you have the curator or the artist talking about every art piece while you fly through the exhibition. But I thought this one is more fun. That is actually one room where we was also having a similar sound system like in the Hexadome. And there was like artist for it. So maybe you have questions to something.
Yeah, oh.
Ja, danke schön. Ich wollte als erstes fragen, was war denn jetzt eigentlich los mit dem Rot in deinem Videofeed?
Von der Übertragung?
Genau.
Da kann ich dir leider nicht helfen.
Da kann ich wahrscheinlich was zu sagen. It's basically because MacBook's always doing some weird shit when you don't expect it, and in this case it's just a color space conversion between RGB and luminance, red and blue channel, and basically interpreting like an YBC, no, it's a YCBCR, I think, as a RGB, just has like this weird color to it. So I think if you go into your output settings of the MacBook and just change it to RGB, then we are back to normal. So maybe if that's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, I'm using this laptop for a lot of live video shows, so maybe something is different.
As I said, like it's more being expected than being wrong per se.
So this is the answer from the technology house. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just like, just as back then you had 10-bit colors.
No.
And yeah, now it's coming back to you.
But don't like purple and green?
I like that actually. I wanted to ask something else, like the art visit. I really like the project a lot. The funding, did you actually just really write to ZKM and ask them directly if they want to fund you with that innovative project? I guess, like, when was it? In 2021 or 20, right?
Yeah, I mean, ZKM actually reached out to us to film their spaces, yeah. I mean, the Art Visit project is really only that. It's like helping the museums to capture their exhibitions, so they have it. It's then theirs, actually. And I think it's a big value for a museum for the future if you can show a digital exhibition, and maybe you curate it also with a real one. And the most comments on YouTube, which all the free exhibitions completely free, means like you can see all the art pieces most of the time while the exhibition is running, and mostly the people think like, oh, then I don't have to go there anymore. But it's not true. If you see it and you like it, you really want to go there. The first question on YouTube is like, fuck, this is so amazing. Is it still running? And I say like, sometimes, yes, it's still running, you can go there. And sometimes I have to say, no, it's gone.
and is the camera still running? The camera?
You mean right now?
Yeah.
I mean, I was just recording an exhibition this morning.
Oh, wow.
The Polaroid exhibition and Helmut Newton Foundation.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And it's still running. So Helmut Newton Polaroid exhibition, you can go. But it will be online then. Like, for example, Helmut Newton Foundation, they have all exhibitions, the last, online. And you can see every photograph in all these exhibitions, like in 360, yeah. And it's not a panoramic tour, it's a movie. And the important thing with a movie is we're seeing 3 dimensions because we're moving. It's not because we have 2 eyes. This stereoscopic thing is mostly only for the 1 or 2, 3 meters. But you can see 3-dimensional also with 1 eye. We just have to move your head. And this is because you have things in the front and in the back are moving differently. And that's how we learn how space is. So I can get an idea, this is 10 meters to this wall, because when I move my head, this is moving not much. So it's quite far away already. While the microphone is moving extremely. So I know it's very close. And that's how we learn our 3-dimensional world. And so if you have a panoramic tour and you're frozen in one image and you can just turn around and nothing moves in front of you, and then you morph into the next one, you completely miss the room. Yeah, and that's why we believe that the movie, which is moving you through the space, actually when you see one of the movies, you know how the space is you know the space after that. If you go then in the exhibition, you know already, it's over there, and there's a stairs going down, and you never was there before. And that never happens when you watch a movie or when you watch a photograph, because you have no idea about the space.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I do like how with every project you also have this angle of perception in it, so it's constructed from the right point, I would say. There was a question here, Ayla?
Thank you so much for that. That was really, really awesome. There was one project where you had the light tubes.
Yeah.
So cool. Can you talk more about that? Like, how did you guys map it? Was it like just all DMX, or what was like the way you were doing it?
Interesting. I mean, you have to imagine that these projects are 10 years old now. Okay. Yeah, it's like 10, exactly. Today it's 10 years, like these 2 shows which you just saw. And at this time, yeah, technology was not where we are today. But yeah, they have DMX, and it was already a combination that we was firing MIDI to the light desk, and the light desk have already some, like a little bit like the movie, has some sequences which could play. But I have to say, at the end, this is a lot of handwork. You play these kind of shows a lot live. You mute the brightness. If something is too stressful, you take it down. You can even slow things down. You're constantly tweaking. So you try really to keep this atmosphere tight and always on it's not getting too much, but also when it's too low, you have to keep up and all this stuff. So always playing live, having a live artist, not playing a DVD or whatever in the background, what some bands are doing today. This is very soulless, in my opinion, you know. I think it's so amazing to give a visual artist also the chance to enhance a music show live. And it's also for the light, the same thing. A light person can so much change the outcome of a festival or a band. I think the idea to automate everything today is dangerous. So all these tools, they should inspire us and give us more possibilities, but they should not take this handmade thing away. There's a lot of quality if you do things by hand. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. It was actually the question I had prepared. How much VJing is there? VJing as in live improvisation before the canvas. What you just said, that today these big shows, they're time coded into the millisecond. It's basically just a huge machinery that's set on play, and then it goes its way, and there's no live interaction between the audience and the performer. It's just fake interaction. Okay, now I'm judging, but I'm judging. I think live is really important.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like really the audience is generating the energy. And I mean, every space is different. Every sound system is different. Every room sounds different. And this all makes a lot of feeling, you know? And if you really want to find the sweet spot of the feeling of a show, you need people which are being sensitive and tweaking that, you know? It's like, I can imagine if you always have the exact same space, with exact the same seats, and everything is the same, you probably could make the perfect time-coded show. But who has that? I don't even, not the big major acts doesn't have that. So it's always, it's, in my opinion, impossible. So yeah, I think also the variation that you see a show 2 or 3 times and you have a totally different experience is a value.
Thank you for pointing that out. Do we have more questions from the audience? Maybe one from me. I mean, you've been in this for a long time, and there's always this pushing boundaries, challenging things, thinking about setups. I mean, now I feel in Berlin we're in a point where there's an abundance of audiovisual performance. Sometimes you have more audiovisual performers in a spot than you have audience. There's also kind of, when you look at the ISM, the amount of sponsors, that was really a big project. Do you feel like these kind of projects still can happen in Berlin, or is it like all kind of exploded into million particles where also people really fall into the habit of playing, you know, the audio-visual performance with, I have my LED screen, I have my table, is like, of course there's a benefit of having a repeating format, right, because you can show differences within that, but is maybe the experimental thing a bit gone?
Yeah, I think your question points in the total right direction. I mean, why all these sponsors get on the boat? Because you do something amazing. And because you do something amazing, a lot of people coming and something great is happening. That's why you have the sponsors. It's not that they come and give you money and say, like, hey, do something cool with it. No, no, no. They want their value from this. They want to shine great. And actually, we can do great things without sponsors. You know, now you can do on a laptop at home so much stuff, you know. You can do the most crazy show, like, with just one laptop, you know. And I don't see the problem there. I think the problem more that you have so many possibilities today, and it's exponential, it's getting more and more, that people are getting overwhelmed by that. That you don't go in one direction anymore and focus on one thing. Sometimes taking away a lot of possibilities helps you to do one thing great. And it can also be a white square, and you can do a whole show with it, and everything, things like fucking amazing. You don't need even one shader for that. You know, it's like, but also having the possibilities is great. But I think you need to learn how to handle this overwhelming possibilities you have nowadays. It's just my impression.
That's definitely food for thought. So you see that problem a bit also on the artist side, so kind of overwhelmed by, oh, now I throw AI on it, and then I do this and this and this and this and this. And then
I mean, it's so crazy now, you know, this wave coming up now with just these possibilities. Now you can combine everything with AI. You can make a pattern scanner out of it, and then make a machine learning it, and then you machine learn different styles and all that, but it's probably, is it really, it's maybe too much noise for... And also for the audience, the same thing. It's getting so noisy with so many things. Sometimes a strong, simple direction is much better. And then you can look what you need, actually, to do that. But not the other way around, like what is possible, and then you think about what you're doing.
It inspires me to prompt like an AI generative system to very minimal output. Give me a white line on a black background, but make it supreme, 4K, cinematic. Let's try that.
And then maybe the AI is answering, why you not get a candle and a little surface and do it without me?
Let's hope that that answer comes one day. Do we have any more questions? Yes, there's one.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. It's so inspiring. I really appreciate being here and you taking the time. My question was, what inspired really the camera, like from the work you were doing before to the camera piece, and just that idea, and then how from when it sparked to like the execution, like how you feel about that, looking back on it, maybe.
That's an interesting question, because I'm from a group where we have an output and do something with passion and create something. The other project is, as you discover, actually, it's more a documentary tool. So it's not an artistic project in this way. It's more kind of a trick how you can capture reality in a way that you can consume it later with all the value, or more closely as possible, of all the efforts which was in there, getting all the art pieces in this amazing architecture space, and the curator which is having something, but it's a lot about humanity. Like all art exhibitions and artists, it's always about us. So that was the idea, to bring this to life, so that there's a format which can bring this into the future, and not all the exhibitions are disappearing. So I don't know why I was doing it. It was on my list, right? It was on my list what I wanted to do in my life, and funny-wise, it just happened then. So that was the reason.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it is an interesting question how you take of the many ideas that I suppose you have, that we all sometimes have, which is the one where you throw all that power, all that energy in to make it real, to make it big, to make it good. Maybe again this thousands of possibilities, and how do you decide it's that one?
I mean, for me personally, I also really enjoy to help others. The ISM Hexadome, for example, is also a platform. So I was helping all the visual artists to achieve 6 high-resolution screens. Most of them was underestimating that, because you can produce 1 or 2 screens and it's not a problem. But if you have 6 screens, you have not only to think about a concept with 6 screens, you have also need a generator which is doing that, you know. So it's even if you cut a movie for 6 screens, it's a little bit more effort. And so I was helping them, and I really enjoy that. So that's one maybe part of myself, not to be in the light like now and being an artist or anything. So just helping other people to have their art pieces getting alive. Yeah.
It's a good one. What happened to ISM? Is it still active?
Well, there's a legal case going on with one of the, triggered by one of the sponsors, which was never paying, and so right now there's a new name which is carrying on all these projects. It's called Vessel, and under the name Vessel, the Hexadome and all other projects are continuing while this legal case is running. But it doesn't mean that ISM is not existing anymore. Probably when the legal case is over, everything goes back to normal again.
Oh, thanks to lawyers. So if a community wants to play on the Hexadome, who do they talk to?
The community? No, what is the question? Yeah.
These folks here. Like, I see some of them drooling already.
If you, well, the website is still there, and you can email them and contact them if you're interested, and you can check out the website with all the projects and all the artists which was already on there. So this is all on, yeah.
Alive and kicking.
Yeah.
Do we have one more question before we go into the break? Alan, again. It's far here.
You kind of spoke about it a moment ago, about like just the lots of possibilities and things. I'm just interested because you have such a long history VJing and being in this space. What has it been like for you to go from 90s VJing to today? And is there any insight you can give us in terms of how things change or how trends appear?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting because we started in Berlin and then we was playing in all the clubs in Berlin. And in Berlin, we have had clubs which already have had multiple screens, and we was sometimes running film projectors, photo film projectors, like dia projectors and slideshows. And we generated like amazing landscapes, vector landscapes. And it was also amazing at this time. And I thought like this will continue forever. It will get better and better and better. And we got then bookings in Europe, and then we was playing everywhere, like in North and South America and Asia. Then suddenly all this disappeared. I mean, it was not bad for us because we traveled a lot at this time, and you got spoiled sometimes when you go with a music act and they have like 90 shows in a year. You go to 90 different cities, 90 by 2 airplanes. Like, this is kind of crazy. So we got our landing with this VJing very well. It comes in the right moment. But yeah, it changed. Things changed. I think, why was it happening? I cannot really answer this in one sentence, but I think also the identity and all the social media stuff when it's coming up, it was not so important anymore that you have something so well produced. It's more the private thing, and it's easy, and it needs to be amateur and all that. And this is also okay, I think. I'm not sure if... I think we have had a good time. But there was a really good quality. When I see shows today, sometimes I'm suffering, sometimes I'm amazed. But it's not like only amazed. So yeah, things changed. And you would not expect this. It's like you think always things get better and better. But in the history of humanity, it's not true. It's like, when it's very good, you should enjoy it because it will probably change.
I think it was great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, what we also have done, which is, I don't think it's a real problem, but we've kind of completely annihilated our timetable. So it's already 10 o'clock, time for the next speaker. I think there might be an urgent need for like a pee break or something. So let's keep it short. Everybody run out, queue for the toilet, and let's be back in 5 to 10 minutes, because the people in the stream also maybe are tuning in right for AMIR, which is the next speaker. So I'll come out and call you all back in, and let's make this a fast one. Thank you.
unexpected. Like, huh? The Wi-Fi is saturated, but because it has, I know, but to connect to the robot. That is such a thing. I will talk about this. Let's go. going to be a very funny. All right.
Okay, let's see if you're connected.
I think so. White line around. Yeah.
Back. Wow. And we are back. And it's a special pleasure to introduce the next speaker, AMIR BASTAN, who's an artist and researcher at the Creative Robotics Lab in Linz, at Kunstuni Linz. And he just guided the Creative Robotics masterclass that we've organized. And within that masterclass, there was this wonderful moment when AMIR and myself were kind of connecting the software that he has written in V4 with TouchDesigner, and it was actually quite easy being guided by AMIR. Now you have to click this and I'll do that. And we've kind of thought, why haven't we done this much more often before? It's kind of really nice to see these two play together. AMIR, thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your little pink friend with you. And we're super excited about what you're going to tell us next.
I'm going to use this one, right? Good evening, everybody. Okay, that should be okay. I normally need to walk around. It's a bit hard to stand somewhere, but I try to contain myself. Thank you very much, Stefan, for the flowers. You know Stefan and the crews. They are so nice people that it's not that difficult to get compliment from them. So. All the other previous presentations set the bar very high, so bear with me. I'm going to start with what you see on the screen. Is basically a PowerPoint. I have some background to give you, and then I'm going to move on very quickly. I don't know, it's a bit difficult to introduce myself. I find it a very challenging thing, and I tell you a bit later why. It's like when you work in the however they call it nowadays, intersection of, I don't know, art and technology and whatsoever, it's a bit difficult to find out basically which one you are. I could tell you that I am an artist. That's how I grew up. I always went to art schools and universities, etc., etc. I have a diploma in visual communication. I have a bachelor in fine arts and philosophy, a master's in interface design, interaction design, and media theory, and I'm wrapping up a PhD in psychoanalysis and human-robot interaction. I work in academia. I do a lot of teaching, working with the students. That is very good. It manages your ego, because you have to repeat things that they are very simple over and over and over, and it tries to keep you a bit humble, which is very nice. And then at some point you have to write a lot of things, and then you get complaints from what you write because it doesn't arrive or it doesn't sit. Anyway, so it's a mixed mash of things that I do. But for tonight, I'm going to sort of associate myself with the Node Institute, with the VVV group and VVV community. And since one thing that these two have in common is a lot of improvisation, a lot of let's say, real-time stuff, I'm going to have this presentation very much real-time driven. So bear with me for a couple of minutes in the beginning, so I show you this slide, and then we get rid of it. We do some patching or programming. Before I start, though, I'm going to ask, because I see a lot of faces that, like a lot of nerds I see here, that I learned a lot of things from them. I assume there are a lot of other nerds that I don't know them yet. So my question is that in the scale of 1 to 10, well, let's say in the scale of 1 to 3, if the range is 10, how much of a nerd you are? Can I show a hand of those things that they are, those people that they are less than 4? If you think you are less than 4 of a nerd, show your hand. Okay, we're gonna go higher. Who is between 4 and 6? Okay, a little bit more. Okay, now it's gonna get juicy. Who is between 6 and 10? Like you are a proper nerd. Amazing, love it. Okay, so those of you that you are pretty much a nerd, do you have your laptop or your computer with you? No, damn it. I guess, so I saw a hand. You have a computer there. Okay. Do you feel comfortable if you do something, you turn on your laptop and then you open a few things? Okay. Just look into MQTT stuff, and then I'll tell you later what we're going to do. Those of you who have your phone, I assume you have your phone. Do you have those apps like OSC Hook or whatever that you can send data via OSC? Does anybody know what that is? Show a hand. Okay, does anybody have that app on their phone right now? Okay, does anybody, is anybody willing to send some stuff via OSC? I spare you the details if you, okay, I see 2, 3, good, perfect. So you set your things up, and then I'm gonna get back to you. I asked you to connect to a Wi-Fi here, and then, don't worry, Stefan, is not yours. I'm gonna ask you to connect to a Wi-Fi, and then I give you an IP, and then perhaps, let's see how far we can go. Okay, so let's start with the boring stuff and put them out of the order. Well, boring stuff. So creative robotics is the name of a department. It's a research department at the University of Arts in Linz. This is where I work. I'm a flow researcher there, and this is what we do research. And it's very funny that, fancy and funny when you say you are a researcher, and everybody thinks that you're doing a lot of cool stuff, which is correct, but 80% of the time, at least in my case, nothing works, just because it's something that it hasn't been done, or if it's done, there are not that many details around it. So you're going to go home very, very not rewarding, and you're very sad because whatever you touch doesn't work. And then you work on something, and it starts to fruit, and then it works. The moment it works, you have to hand it over, go to the next project where 80% of the time nothing works. But it is, I think, let's say, it is a good part of it. So yeah, what you see here is a visualization of a robot. No, this one is a visualization of a robot. This is KUKA PRC in Grasshopper in Rhino. It is developed by Johannes Braumann, who is, by the way, my leading professor at the Creative Robotics. But what you see here, what is happening, if I can manage to play this video, is that notice that tile that is in front of a robot. The tile changes its properties, its physical properties, based on this dome curve thingy that you see on the right side. So when the structure or the geometry changes, this tile that is being our tile of our interest is also changing. Based on the changes of the properties of that tile, of course, the robot movement is also changing. So it's basically a simulation that how do you program industrial robots to use them. And simulation is very important because when you do real-time things, you need to be very aware of what you're doing because things can go wrong. Hopefully, nothing is going to go wrong today, but let's see. But there are other things that we also do with robots. For example, if you know what that is, I guess those of artists here, they know that is a point cloud, and it's a very fancy one. You do a lot of GPU stuff, and then you make them looking good, and then they float around, et cetera, et cetera. But actually, one other thing is that there are a lot of companies that they are working with digital twins. It is very important for them to have their point cloud as accurate as possible. Like sometimes there are point clouds that they are mind-blowing, that they are accurate to millimeter. And it has to be like that, because when you build a digital twin of a building or another object, it has to be as accurate as possible. And how do they do that? In this case, we also can use robots to collect this data, but there is one key here. We don't manipulate things as we do with a robotic arm, but we observe things. So it doesn't necessarily you manipulate your environment, but you observe your environment. And one of the use cases that, for example, the quadruped robots or mobile robots they have is that they are really good in observation, you know. And they are quadruped, like they have legs, just because the word that we built is built for legs to be climbed. It did work. I don't know why now we don't see the... yeah, I just try to keep talking. I hope it is also going. I am also connected. Yeah, let's see. So there is this company that we work with. Actually, this is their robot there that they're generous enough that they let me do research and bring it here, for example. And what they do is that they basically they mount different type of laser scanners on top of the robot, and then they run it into a routine and they scan a building. So one thing that I didn't know, for instance, is that there are some places that defining danger, what would that mean that it's dangerous for people to work there? It's just because they're very, very loud, you know, like as simple as it is. You know, not necessarily that you're going to get killed or whatever, but they're just super loud that people cannot go there, and then they use a robot. Or their location is so remote that they use a robot to do this inspection basically thing that is supposed to do. And this is actually this very robot that you see here. Why it is pink is just because we can, and then we make it pink. Somebody said why there is no pink in the previous presentation, so we just brought a very pink robot. Anyway, so the good thing about the robot is that you can basically program it, and it does the same thing over and over with a very, very less creative way. And this is exactly what you want. You want the thing, iteration happens exactly one-to-one likeness as the previous operation. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. You can follow these people. They are called Capture with Q. That's the company, and then you can see the rest of the things that what they do. Unfortunately, things doesn't end here. What you see here is a list of questions that I often get when we have an installation somewhere with a robot or we show something. Perhaps one of those questions comes out of this group as well. Some people ask this question that, for example, I don't know, is it a he or a she? It's a classic. Like you get that every time. Or can you tell her that I like her? You know, like already somebody think that's a she, and already they think that I can talk to her, and it would make a difference if I tell her that she likes her. It can also get more complicated. For example, can someone from Conservative Party buy a dog? You know, it's like, is that a theoretical question? It's like, do you need a link to buy this, or what is the purpose of that? One thing that all of these questions have in common is that it's not about the robot. Is about everything around it, right? And it basically gave me this idea that whenever we interact with robots and machines, there is something always left over, something we didn't calculate it, something we didn't think about when we were designing this interaction. There is a leftover of whatever. You know, you could call it surplus value. We could move into psychoanalysis board and we call it the objet petit a or etc. But I'm not going to that direction, don't worry. The thing is, we could use this quality to create artistic work, and this is something that we do. Like in the previous video that we were watching, there's this very famous two robots that they move two flags around. It's just not two flags being around, there are two robots moving two flags around. And what does that mean? Maybe does it mean anything even, or it doesn't mean anything? It's just the idea that it gives you space for projection is something that is very profound, and that's why we see more and more basically robots and machines being used in the artistic world. I came up with the idea that putting all these practices and tiny projects that we have done at the Creative Robotics to create a utility that the other people can also use it. I came up with this idea called bunraku. Bunraku is a Japanese form of theater. I'm sure that you have seen it. Like there is a puppet, and there are these people who wear black, and then they hold the part of the puppet and move it around. And I stole that term, and I called this package bunraku. And bunraku is designed to be real-time. It's designed to allow you to interface with your robots however you want. We will see a few of them a bit later. And it is been written in VL. This is basically what is something that is very juicy about it. I did a workshop in Hochschule Mainz. I have Nils and Olaf here. They have been such a great help to report bugs and push things to the limits and even do things that I was like, is that bunraku actually? Like, how did you do that? Like, teach me. And talk to them, Nils and Olaf. Can you show me your hand, Nils and Olaf? So that is Nils, that is Olaf. They have crazy ideas, and they brought actually a robot all the way from Mainz for our Creative Robotics masterclass, and it's in the Node Institute. We are working on it tomorrow again, as well as we did today. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. we have done a few artworks. I'm going to quickly go through them. This is Zoe. I did that with Noor. Noor, can you show me your hand so the others... So this artwork is it's a robotic system that is driven by mycelium and the fruiting body of the mycelium, which are reishi mushrooms. We were very lucky that we got the honorary mention at the Prix Ars Electronica last year. Yeah. And if you want to know more about this work, ask me later, ask Noor. We did this project together, and would be nice to talk about it. But let's move on. We also do other things, like this one, for example, is the Kammer Orchestra, Stuttgart Kammer Orchestra, and the robot was playing a very particular piece. It's called Terry Riley in C, or in C by Terry Riley. That is a very algorithmic piece that has been written for an orchestra, and the robot was basically the one who was playing the C on the piano. I was always very worried about these tools because they're like really expensive. It's not about that we are worried about the money of this. Like, this is something you want, the utility, the tool that you have, you want this to be very happy and healthy and working proper. I was very worried about the robot there, and then afterwards I realized the piano that they gave me to work with, this is 4 times more expensive than the robot itself. And this robot is brand new that you see there. I was like, this is really necessary. But yeah, nothing bad happened, happily. Yeah, the robot, these 2 robots, they had a duo, like they had a sort of a choreography at the beginning of the orchestra, which was pretty much nice. What you see here is called, we call it Immersion. It is a game that has been designed for 2 robots. They are 2 collaborative robots. We work a lot with KUKA, and this is IROS in Abu Dhabi. IROS is one of the biggest robotic conferences. Last year it was in Abu Dhabi, and then we were showing this interactive installation there that people could use these 2 robots to navigate through a 3D scene or through a game, and they had to roll this sphere through this sort of a maze. And yeah, everything is running, is basically on one laptop in VVVV, Gamma, and Bunraku. Okay. Yeah, there is another artwork. Let's not talk about this one. We can, if you have questions afterwards, we can talk about it. That's a book, blah, blah. And there are some workshops, master classes, and things that we do at university, blah, blah. And thank you very much. OK, so don't clap. I'm not done yet. OK, so now let's get to the juicy part of that. What you see here is basically, this is the environment of VVV Gamma. If you want to use Bunraku, at this time, I guess by tomorrow, this time, it's going to be a NuGet. If you do know a NuGet, if you don't know what NuGet is, ask those people who do know what a NuGet is and how to use it in V4. But for now, we can just basically fork this or, I don't know, clone this repo. And you will see everything that I'm showing here in that repo as well. So basically, yeah, as you see, Bunraku is free. I mean, I don't know what is the definition of open source, but basically whatever I have is also here. So yeah, help yourself. When you install that finally, and you have it running on VVV, you will be greeted with a few so-called help patches. These help patches are some samples that you open them and it shows you how things work. And this is what you get. Is it actually big enough, or should I zoom in a bit more? OK, good. Thank you. You have a few main components. If you're interested, we can talk about them later on. But basically, what is important and interesting for us is that you have 2 ways of sort of moving a 6-axis robot around. One of them is the, as we call it, a TCP or a Cartesian. You have X, Y, Z. When I move this around, like X moves around, and this is basically Y. And then we have also Z. This is, my mouse is not working here. I can use this one here. OK. And yeah, I mean, you get the idea. And another way of basically using the motion is axis values. So basically, you have 6 axes, and you want to individually move each axis around. So there are these 2 main ways of controlling a robot. And really, this is it. This is sort of the core part of the Bunraku. How do you want to move your robot around? Pick whatever you want. Like, you want to use the Xbox controller, you want to use a timeline, you want to connect it to a data coming from Kinect, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, that is what Bunraku offers you. There's a list of robots that you can use them in order to do whatever you want to do. Mostly robots from KUKA, this manufacturer supported. Spot from Boston Dynamics, we will see it in action in a bit, is also there. But before I move forward, I can also show you one more patch. This is another robot. It's a bit taller. It's from a different category. I mean, you can also, I don't want to really be picky on how things work in VVV, but if you go to the category of robots, you see that they're also listed and categorized by their brand, for example, here. Anyways, so sometimes you want to know what is the difference between whatever this roboticist is talking about, like what is a flange, what is a TCP, is the tool center point, how to move these things around, and how you get this data in and out of the robot. You can basically use some utilities. For example, here, we calibrate the robot in a way, or like basically we set up the tool in a way that if you notice, the solver tries to solve for the very tip of the teapot over here. You know? So generally, the robot doesn't know what a teapot is. It doesn't know what kind of utilities are provided for a teapot, what is in there and how it works. But basically, you can manipulate the TCP and the flange and etc. to target this very part. So you see, like, it really rotates around that very particular. I mean, you can think of cinema. You can have a camera there. You can get in real time the focal point of your camera and then let the robot solve for that particular part. Those people who they were supposed to help me out, what is the status? Did you do anything? Like, are you still interested to send things back and forth? I still see one hand here, the another one there. Cool. What is your, are you going to do OSC, Benju? OSC. Anybody OSC? Anybody MQTT? Wow, MQTT. Cool. Thank you, sir. I'm going to get back to you in a second. All right. Before we move on, and before we get there are different ways that you can send the data from the robot back and forth. I talked about this a bit later, but let's do some little bit of Spot stuff. Spot is a little different, the way that it works and the way it's constructed. Therefore, it has a different structure of a patch. I mean, I try to keep things as general and as universal as possible, that they meet Bunraku's design, but sometimes things need to be a bit different. First of all, it's a different company, it's a different robot, and so on and so forth. Anyways, but what is very important here is that I really isolated this part of the Spot control, and I don't have any interface here. And we're going to do some interfacing through that. So if you haven't slept yet, so please stay awake for another 2-3 minutes. Things are going to get a little more exciting and interesting, hopefully. So what am I going to do is that right now from V4, I'm going to send the stand command, and hopefully the robot stands there. And then you see I have this property called body height. I can change this, and then the robot goes up and down. And then I can also a little look around, like see where you are. Let's look around a bit. That was the roll. Let's reset this value, and then let's look a little back and forth. And then let's say I also want to walk a little forward. I think that should be it. I should not have any rotation here. And if I just keep pressing this, the robot can walk forward towards you. And don't worry, there is another service inside the robot that runs internally always. This is obstacle avoidance. So if you are higher than 30 centimeter, it is very unlikely that the Spot goes to go over you. Otherwise, it thinks you are a stair and it wants to climb up above you. But I guess what I see here is that you don't look like a stairs. So the Spot could avoid you the way that it works, this internal whatever obstacle avoidance, this service. And notice all these properties that I just put here as an example, they have one tag called robot, like Spot 1. So theoretically, if we had n time spots, we could have n time commands, and then we could even animate them, and all of them do whatever they wanted to do. And then, yeah, so we also stream the data that comes from the robot. So basically, you get the leg positions. You get basically how the joints are looking like. You get if a contact made, yes or no. You get, I don't know, the locomotion charge percentage, like how much battery the robot has. Like there's so many things. Those that are exposed here, I mean, you have this body velocity. You can also see where the robot is. You can see the history, that how the robot came here. You can send it back. You can even define, I'll get back to you in a second, sir. You can even define that how the robot should pick a route and et cetera, et cetera. Just be creative. And also, of course, you can visualize it. Forgive me, I'm not going to show the visualizer because we're going to get distracted a little. But what I have here is that an Xbox controller is basically another NuGet that You can just basically download it and have it in V4. So I see that it is working. So if I were to, let's say, connect the X of the right thumbstick, which is this value, to, let's say, I'm going to work on this orientation for now. So let's not get too crazy. I'm going to use a vector join 3D. Gonna connect it here. Let's make some space here. And that one is the left one that basically looks left and right. I guess that should be the right value is the X that looks left and right. Good. So if I were to connect that one over here, and now I can use the joystick to look around. And that's just an Xbox that I connected to this. I mean, you could just go ahead now, and I could make it very boring and start mapping everything over together. So that's basically how things work. Instead of this joystick, it can be anything. You can have, I don't know, a Telegram bot to send a message over your Telegram, and then we get it here. Use a natural language model that it knows what you're talking about, and then it generates a command and manipulates its properties. But one other thing, before we get back to those people who are still cooking some OSC and MQTT here, a colleague of mine is here, Hanif. And Hanif had this, well, Hanif is moderately a lazy person, so when I was asking him to just get this joystick and move around, and he was like, yeah, I get very tired to move this thumbstick around. So he came up with this idea that why not using his goggle while he's working on something else. He was streaming the data from his goggle to keep me busy as well. Could we do that as well? So yeah, let's get into this. And what you see here is just a simple OSC server. This is something that we're going to use afterwards. What Hanif is going to do is that he chose a port. He told me what port it is. He is connected to this tiny TP-Link router that I have here. And then he's just sending pitch, roll, and yaw from his goggles. We happen to know that the data comes from, they are in degree, and then we're going to turn them to cycle. Am I getting anything from you? Not yet. These are the old values. Maybe just try to get that. Maybe just try to reset that. And yeah, so the idea is that now we could basically use those data, and we could connect it into the basically the movement. I mean, you can expect what is going to happen, but it's nice to see what is happening. You know, it's like how accurate it is and how it is responding. I'm still not receiving anything. That's basically it's a UDP joke. You know, it's like if you don't get it, then that's how it works. Those people that they are setting up OSC, could I pick one? Yeah, good question. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the IP of this computer should be one. Okay, let me just look it up actually. Not here. Hanif, could you read the IP of that computer, or I cannot just use it? Yeah, that should be mine. Yeah? Yeah, Wi-Fi network. So you need to be connected to something called Nimbus 2. I think I can also see the Wi-Fi networks here. Could I? Doesn't matter. So you see a Nimbus 2 if you search, and the password is Bunraku 2025. That is basically what you see here. Stefan, how much time do I have left? Is it already over time very much? Okay. So that is the password. You don't have internet here. It's just the local whatever we have here, right? Hanif is still not receiving anything from you. Anybody else? Who is going to be faster to send stuff? The IP, once again. There you go. Yeah, Hanif is coming in. Cool. Could you show me what is roll? Like when you roll it left and right, like as if you move your neck left and right? Are you doing the role now? I guess that should be this one. So that is the role. Let's create a vector, join 3D. And I believe that was the role is the second one. That's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, we will see. I mean, this is something that we can play around with. And I'm going to connect that here. So could you just move your head back and forth? One other thing is that we could just be very precise and map this. But since I am very lazy and I don't want to spend so much time on that, I'm just going to scale it a little up. Please forgive me for doing it very brutal. Let's say that should be this. Now, can you move your... Sort of. Can you look up and down? That should be like this, I believe. Yeah, can you look up? Can also be a little more. Can you look up and down once again? Yeah, I mean, you get the idea. Anybody else is sending anything? The port. You can also send it to the same 9000 if you wish. And you need to tell me what is the address of whatever you are sending. For example, you see, as an example, you can look at this. Or if you have an app, the app should have some, basically some samples that you can send your mobile phone's gyro data back and forth. \1. I really don't hear you. Stefan, would you hand the microphone to this gentleman? That would be very helpful. And
Fader 1.
Once again?
Fader. F-A-D.
Fader.
E-R 1.
Fader.
Yes.
1?
Yes.
That's it. Yeah?
I think so.
And what is the data I'm receiving? I assume
it's just a 0 to 1, like a slider.
That would mean a float. Thank you, Jorek. OK, that is yours, right? Yeah. So what am I going to do is that I'm going to map this to, let's say, the body height of the robot. And I'm going to disconnect you, Hanif. Sorry, you had too much fun, I guess. The body height of the robot. I happen to know that the range of this body height is not necessarily from 0 to 1, which is what you are sending, but let's say if it's 0 to 1, it's going to be from -1 to 1. Can you send something for me? Very good. And there we go. Robot is yours. Thank you. Yeah, give it up for him. Thanks. I mean, if you want, we could wait for somebody else to send some other OSD signals, and then you can keep the body height, and somebody else could do something else. I guess it's going to be a little creepy. Never mind. Where is my MQTT friend? OK, so what I'm going to ask you is that, sorry, my fader friend, I'm going to disconnect you for a second. OK, this robot can sit for a second here. One other thing that we have there is serialized robot data or send via MQTT. Good. This is another robot. By the way, Stefan mentioned that already. He did a really great job. And basically, if you run this patch, you can have the same robot moving in TouchDesigner if you set up your MQTT there. And what am I going to do is that I'm going to send this data of the MQTT, what we call the static profile and the dynamic profile, to this address. So it's basically a shifter IO. This is the port. User pass is public. Client ID is Bunraku. It would be very fun if we had a musician here who was able to hook up his computer somewhere. Because you can get a few data from the spot as well. When the spot walks, you can know wherever its leg is in the air or down, and then you could put a kick every time you do that. We actually did that. We put a bass. I love that you're heavily featured tonight. Like whatever I say, it's like, yeah. What is an MQTT? Well, MQTT is a protocol that you can use to send and receive data over internet in very short terms. Did I say it right? Anybody objection for that? Okay. All right, so my MQTT friend, are you receiving anything from this address? I mean, generally, if you have this set up, you should be greeted with a JSON file that it gives you something like that. It doesn't matter if you have V4 or not. It doesn't matter whatever platform you are using. Basically, you will receive a JSON. You can also run it on your phone. I think there is like an application for it on the Android or OS as well. But in general, I mean, you get the idea. So you can basically stream whatever this connection, magical connection Stefan was talking about. Basically, we had like a very magical sort of touch over MQTT over the network that he could use the Bunraku that was running on my computer to control through TouchDesigner from his studio. And that was very much fun. So, and what we are talking about is like, okay, let's, I don't know, move it around and let's like wiggle around. But really, this is something that you use to do remote roboting, or you can control a robot from far away, or you can receive the data. You can basically log your robot and whatnot. And this is the idea of Bunraku. You know, like I want people to be enabled to just do whatever they want, regardless of thinking that, okay, what kind of machine is that? What kind of protocol does it support, and what it doesn't, etc. I think that's what I got. Thank you. Okay, and by the way, this is I need to mention, like, there is a big, there are giants that I'm standing on the shoulder. I think I read that somewhere. This is VVVV, this is VVV Gamma, this is VVV Group, this is KUKA PRC, this is Robots in Architecture, this is TouchDesigner Community, this is Node Institute, this is David, this is Stefan. It's just not me sitting and thinking of those. I've done a lot of copy-pasting, and I've done a lot of, I don't know, it's not a genius thing that I have done. It's a credit to a lot of supports that I got from V4 community. I don't know how many of them are here. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that without the support of a lot of other people in there. Just use it, do things with it. It is out there, add to it, or I don't know, manipulate it. Do good things with them, you know, and be careful with robots, because the robots don't know that we are human, but we know that we are human. So it's our responsibility, the way we use them and we shape our words. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this amazing ride, Amir. I have to say, from own experience, this was really kind of magic, because Amir sent me the model. I think we used USD to try it out. I opened it in TouchDesigner. He guided me a bit through the setup of the joints. The MQTT is nice in that sense that you subscribe to certain information. So we could subscribe only to the necessary thing, and then you can move the tip of the robot in TouchDesigner, and it will send the information to Linz. That's how we set up first. And there, the inverse kinematics will be calculated and send it back to the robot in Axis. And it was real time. It was really magic. Like, you move this, it gets calculated in Linz, it comes back, it moves your robot. And the idea that, well, when we can do this with this model, we can also do it with the real thing. And the next step was then to have V4 and Gamma, whatever, I'm not a V4 person, in the background. And it took me about 10 minutes to have it installed and running, surprisingly, and some guidance to click around. It's really magic. I think you did a really amazing thing with this Bunraku. And
Stefan, and in Prague, Stefan is very humble. You know, it's like he knows how
Amir
things
is
work.
humble.
No, this is him.
Okay, let's not humble battle. Do we have any questions from the audience? Ed.
I've got so many questions. Does Bunraku work on drones? I suppose it would, right? You've got axes.
Did you mention if you're working with drones?
Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, it could work. It's just I've never had the chance to have a look at them. But I guess, yeah, it should work. I mean, the framework is that it is designed to be, we didn't get the chance to do that. And of course, I couldn't bring more than one spot. The idea is that you can really orchestrate them, like more than one. And of course, if you have drones and more than one, you can even make an orchestration for drones.
Cool. I've got a really stupid technical question. Is there any limitations on the sensors on Spot? Like, can it, like shiny surfaces or specular stuff? Like, are there holes in its vision? Can it see mirrors? Like,
yeah. So Spot uses stereo cameras, and then the first enemy is a glass. Simple as it is. And there are a lot of other things, you know, like a direct light into it, you know, a very strong light.
so that's how we protect ourselves from the drone armies.
You know, I guess the thing is you don't really need to go to that direction to be afraid to be protected by them. You could just wait until their battery goes out and just sit in a corner and wait. It will sit down on its own.
Do I see any raised arms? Oh, David.
Amir, thank you. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot in the past, but maybe it's interesting for the audience as well. So if I'm not mistaken, also the way your masterclass now worked, so Bunraku enables people to pre-visualize or pre-design whatever they want to do with the robot. And then what's the next step? Like, you plan, like, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 robots for your show, for your piece, whatever, and then you have them physically. So what's the interface? And like, what do you simply edit, or is that working out of the box? So does Bunraku take care of that part?
Let me answer 2 parts to this question. So the first one, if you talk about a masterclass, it was a theoretical part and a technical part. The theoretical part is what I spared you tonight. It's like a lot of philosophy, a lot of interactivity frameworks. What I really don't like is that these genius people, artists, they are not aware of the vast amount of possibilities they can do with the robots. And what we see, for example, even with robots on Boston Dynamics is like, can it dance? Can it kill me? And you know, that is very sad. You know, so we spend like about 10 hours in the masterclass going through history of interactivity with the other, what does the unknown mean, talking a lot about Lacanian psychoanalysis, readings of Zizek from Hegel, how society would be structuring the position of the unknown, etc., etc. So there was a lot of things to define this interactivity. You know, it's very cool that we can use a mobile phone and put it up and down, and so what, you know? That is the first part, like we had theoretical and technical. Getting back to the other question that you asked, very valid question, is that every robot, every manufacturer uses whatever protocol that they could use. For instance, even KUKA itself, you have Smart Servo from Sunrise controller, that is basically a way of interacting with robot. You have RSI, you have MX automation, you have EtherCAT, and each of them, they have their own way and they have their own use case. As much as I could, I have them implemented here. For example, what you see on the screen is a Yontech. With Yontech for real-time interaction, you can use RSI. And Bunraku is RSI ready. You can just send access values there. But of course, the thing is, if you have a robot from KUKA, RSI is a tech package, as they call it. So you need to get a separated license for that particular package to install it on your robot. And it's not coming from Bunraku. But the moment Bunraku knows that you have it, it can interact with it. That is one thing. For example, Boston Dynamics uses this heavy use of gRPCs. And yeah, you can do that also here. But also, to some extent, you need to know your robot and what protocol your robot supports. If you have it, if you know it, it's here. There are a lot of other robots that I just don't happen to have them here. So if you're interested in anything, reach out. If you have, I don't know, an ABB, never looked into them. I don't know what is the real-time protocol. Let me know. I will see what I can do.
Hey, David just asked if like you can use this to pre-design whatever choreography or whatever you want to do. But if I'm not mistaken, it looked like fairly direct. So there's not a simulation of motor ramps of all the axes in there. So you would need like either a feedback channel by the actual thing or a software running that simulates the robot's movement. Or did you re-implement this in VVV for some of the robots yourself?
Good one. So let's say there are mainly two ways of control, like programming robots. One of them would be that you have a predetermined code, like in the case of KUKA is a KRL, KUKA robot language, and looks like Pascal. I mean, I don't know, it's like very weird to read that. But you can have code generators. So basically you define, let's say, you make a curve in your V4, you define a resolution, you assign those resolution to the TCP, and then you define the interpolation for each of those points on your curve. And that becomes a KRL code that you put on a USB stick, you put it on the robot controller, and it works. If it works in Bunraku in simulation, it's almost 99% that when you run the program on the robot does exactly the same that you have seen on your simulator. Now, the other question would be when we talk about real-time, which is not very welcome in industry generally. Like, for example, if we talk to KUKA, say, oh, I have a big robot, want to do real-time, it's very unlikely that they would will, oh, sure, download this file and do this and this, because there are a lot of reliabilities. Who is doing it? If something breaks, what happens? Who is responsible for that? So generally, when it comes to real-time, what you mentioned, I have some sample of recordings of moving robots back and forth, and when I want to debug or when I want to code, I use them. Or if you happen to have the luxury that I have to always have robots around, I always have a robot connected to the computer. And I didn't have time to show, like, there are different settings on your visualizer. You generally always see two robots. One of them is X-ray, like, you know that this is a virtual robot, that you move it to a point, and then you see the actual robot follows. And that is the difference between the two, physical and actual. I hope it did answer your question. Yeah.
There's a question from Kunal. You have your own microphone. What are you doing?
First of all, thanks, AMIR. Really interesting projects that you're working on. So I have two questions. One is for the engineer in you, and the other is for the artist in you. The first one, maybe for the engineer, since it kind of came up twice. You skipped over this very interesting thing for me, which was about kinematics or kinematic dreams. And then Stefan briefly mentioned about inverse kinematics also, which, so is there some more light you could shed on how actually this is calculated when it comes to these 6-axis robots, etc.? And then maybe I can ask the question for the artist in you, if that's okay.
So the inverse kinematics, particularly for these robots, are, first of all, inverse kinematics is not magic, I would say. It is linear algebra. It's a lot of work. It's maybe like, I don't know, it's perhaps sometimes easier to have in a textual code because it's a lot of functions. When you do visual programming, you look at it, it's like, oh my God, what is this, you know? But in general, this is also something that you don't need to constantly do yourself. There are these things that has been done. I mean, I don't know, I guess you can use an AI engine to calculate for you an inverse kinematic. But what is different here is that actually one case that we have in the workshop today, we had this today, is that each manufacturer design their robots the way that they like to design them, you know? And based on the structure and the skeleton of the robot, the parameters of the IK solver is different. For example, now the IK solver that is permanently running on, in Bunraku is designed for KUKA robots. And KUKA has, I don't know, 60 different robots that each of them, they have a different, but they have a same signature for their skeleton data. Therefore, one solver does the job for all of them. As long as you know how tall is one axis, what is the motion range, etc., etc. Yeah, so I think that is the inverse kinematic stuff. The kinematic dream that you mentioned is just, it was an artistic title for a series of workshops that let's just not get into it now.
Sure, thanks for that. The second question, like I said, for the artist in you, there was this text I read by Juhani Plasma. It's called The Thinking Hand. And it basically talks about how the hand and the mind are kind of being disembodied, and that leaves behind a certain kind of cognition that comes from the hand, doing from the hand, thinking from the hand. And with these kind of developments, with these, let's say, prosthetic arms, essentially, I'm just wondering what role the hand now plays in these robots and artistic expression through this medium, or even working with this medium.
So, if you ask me, if you want me to answer as an artist, we could just sit down and speculate and philosophize, which is like super nice. Going to, I don't know, Bataille and talk about, I don't know, different sensations of bodies and how basically your own body part could become an augmentation of what is the idea of that body part. But there is actually a very simpler approach to that. Let me connect that just because you mentioned this inverse kinematic. It is an annoying, well, when I say annoying, for a mathematician, it's a juicy and deliciously complicated thing to just sit down and solve a linear algebra. But what we know is super easy for computers to just define forward kinematics, like basically just say, axis 1 here, rotate, axis 2, rotate, axis 3, rotate, right? And it's very hard to say that, hey, robot, this is your tip, and I want this from this 3D vector, goes to that 3D vector, figure out how this other axis should look like and should get in position. Now, I want you to do something for me. Raise your right arm up in the air. With your index finger, everybody else can try this. It's actually very nice to do that. With your index finger, point to that light that is in front of me, and then go back up again, and then touch the tip of your nose, right? So what happens here is that without you looking at the tip of your finger, you know how to move it around in the air, and you have no clue what is the angular position of your wrist and your elbow and your shoulder, etc., etc. What you are doing is what we call inverse kinematic without even thinking about it. But if I ask you to do the same thing, but you are not allowed to move all of them at the same time, you're only allowed to first move your shoulder, then your elbow, then your wrist, then your finger, it's going to take 2 hours until you can point to that light. And even going back, poking your nose before making yourself blind. So this is the different way of how we sense things and how we try to make sense of them and reproduce them. So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, super, thanks.
Sure.
Coming.
Sorry for asking so many questions. You're very
You're
interesting.
more than welcome.
This is amazing. Are you planning on releasing this for TouchDesigner in any fashion, in any way?
To have it in TouchDesigner, sure. I mean, you can already have it, theoretically.
But, okay.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, the idea is that, well, I am not very good in TouchDesigner. To be very honest, I'm not good at all. Like, I don't know how things call and how things move around, etc. But one thing it is possible to do is that instead of running the whole Bunraku, you can we can do this in VVV Gamma. I have some tests. Hopefully this week or next, I will include that into the repo. That basically you export part of the Bunraku app from VVV Gamma as a console app, and then you can execute it from your TouchDesigner. And all you need to do is that defining what robot you have, where are your geometry files on your disk, and what you're going to do. And then this server runs silently in the background and takes care of the rest.
Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Of course.
So that's something that we want to work out a little bit. That basically, you know, it's like a media pipe. It's not running in TouchDesigner, somewhere running in the background. You just figure out the IOs and then you forget about it. So, and I think the first steps was really exciting. So they would just have to put in the work, and then you have a TouchDesigner component that just, to the not expert user, would feel like it's a native TouchDesigner thing, but in the background, there would be a Bunraku running. And that's a bit, yeah, what we're gonna try. It looks very promising.
If Stefan says so, I would just say yeah. No. Stefan says yes.
Do we have more questions for Amir? Or should we call it a day, have a beer, and...
Shini has a question. Huh?
Applaud. What?
Oh yeah, so sorry, some advertisement. I forgot about that. So there is 48 hours of Neukölln, and there is something happens at Canopy? We don't call it canopy. We call it Xenoteca.
It's complicated, but it's a Xenoteca space run by the Canopy Collective, who invited the Node Institute.
Exactly. So, and the Node Institute has a lot of things basically advocating whatever happens there. So if you're around in Neukölln, you can check out Xenoteca, and then you can, yeah, exactly this. I'm not getting paid for this part of the advertisement, so you can just skip through this part. But anything else I forgot to say? Cool, perfect. Yeah, so there was one slight change of plan. We had this masterclass and we decided to show something at the end. And then we found out it's just very much fun to just sit and think tank and prototype things and mess around with things. As I said, Niels and Olaf, they brought their own robot with a lot of ideas, and they're doing crazy things from playing theremin to so there is like a now there is a digital flower is mounted. Is basically Maurice's fault. Maurice, where are you? Yeah, so Maurice brought a plant that it is basically connected to V4 in different ways, mounted on the robot. So basically, we are in the Node Institute doing a lot of, I don't know, weird things. And I don't know, they are showable as an artwork somewhere, but I mean, I don't know. It's not my place to say, please drop by, but sorry, David and Stefan, if I'm inviting guests, but I mean, you are more than welcome to drop by. I would love to see you guys there. They have a really good coffee machine.
I mean, to extend maybe on that, it's a bit more complicated. In the end, yes, the creative robotics is kind of, they enjoy too much working on it to bother to make like an exhibition. So in the end, what we're going to exhibit at Canopy is just a photo documentation of all the cool stuff that has happened. Because we also don't want to invite a big audience and then there's like, you know, there's not a show. So that being said, they also moved to the Node Institute for various reasons for the workshop tomorrow. And as we are so few people here, yes, you're invited to drop by to watch the nerds nerding around. But the thing that's really public-facing of that whole masterclass presentation will be the performances of the new media dramaturgy, because that's explicitly for performance, and that's exactly the date that you see here. Everything else is really open lab. It might read different on the 48 Hours of Neukölln website, but manage expectations. This is what it's going to be. Thank you so much, Amir.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
I think we all want to have a robot now. So thanks again, B-Dome, for having us. Thanks to PlusPlusOne for streaming, audio, and general support. Thanks to Derivative for ongoing and generous support. Thanks for Amir for bringing this, your dog. And thank you all for coming. Looking forward to see you the next time. And over and out. Bye-bye. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry. We were so excited about the robots that we completely forgot the open dome part. So 2 people already have submitted pieces which we're watching right now. One is by Dan, one is by Linda. Forgive me if I don't know